While we all getting back online, quickly, Nikita was present or is present. Jessica is too, and Vrishka just got online. Marley, Paige, I've got to quickly get Paige on. Danica, I know, is with us. Is Marley, you here today? Pretty sure I saw Marley in the first session. Paige is here. I'll repeat myself from the first session. If you are in contact with any of your classmates who you know are not here today, and it's due to the load shedding that we're experiencing between 12 and 10, it is going to be disruptive today. I also know that, on campus, although the main building is on a generator, there is load shedding between 10 and 12:30. Here in Dermalwall, where I am, there's load shedding, I think, from 12 to 2:30. It's afternoon. So again, that affects any classes after, well, sort of only the first couple of minutes of period 4. Those who have class for the rest of the day, we're trying our best to ensure that all the information get to you. I'm not sure if we're going to be equally successful in all cases, but remind your friends and your classmates to have a look at or to watch the video or the recording later on. I'm going to upload it. Hopefully it uploads within the 10 minutes between finishing time 11:50 and 12 o'clock when I go into load shedding. Otherwise it'll be after 2 o'clock this afternoon when our power at home is back on. Let's just continue where we left off. Where we have left off is that we're going to go to the first step in the market research process. And as we've identified from the previous session, or the previous first part of today's session, is that the process is actually quite a simple process to follow and to understand and to implement, as long as you collect relevant information. Because if we collect the wrong information, it's going to give you a distorted vision of what reality is, and you think you might have solved the problem, but actually you have not. Very important to make sure that the information is relevant and that the information is updated. And as it says there on the screen, it is probably one of the most important steps, because if we do not properly qualify and properly define the problem that we want to research, we're going to end up with a result that is of no value to us. So it is very important to specifically identify what you want to achieve. The example I've used there is the one of F&B, who wants to determine whether their users are satisfied with the social media approach that the bank is trying to take, and if they're happy with it. I've had personal experience. That's why I've got the images at the bottom right corner there of what was known to me as, and it currently still is known, but it just got a different take on it. When I worked in London in the late 80s, early 90s, one of the places that I worked at, and probably the place I worked at the most, or the longest, sorry, was the Riverside Health and Racquet Club, which has now become a Virgin Active Club. It's in Chiswick, just off the Thames, in the residential area that's called Barnes. It is quite an exclusive facility. I'm not going to do name dropping because none of you would have heard of those individuals, but that the club was opened by a British professional tennis player who was married to a well-known legend of the game, female, and from the 1980s, way before your time. Your parents will probably remember them, but it was initially a racket club, and it later on became a racket and health club. That's where the Virgin Active brand came in. It's about 4,000 square meters. Um, 8 indoor tennis courts. I think 18 outdoor courts, grass courts. I know that they've added some clay courts now as well. A restaurant the size of a decent sized Spur, that we have in South Africa, just to give you an idea of the size. Obviously a gym and whatever. So one of the problems that I know or why I chose them is, or was lucky to choose them, was to my surprise, when I was there to play rugby. I went there to have a beer with friends. He introduced me to the manager. The manager greeted me in Afrikaans, and I realized, oh my goodness, he's actually British, a guy who is married to South African. He lived in South Africa for a while. That's where he met his wife, and he offered me a job, and I was actually thankful to take it. I could actually use a lot of the information that I obtained at the club in my thesis for my master's degree, which I was completing at that stage. And one of the issues, or one of the things I enjoyed about them, is every single first Monday of the month, they closed the club. Now, even in 1988, when I started working there, it was a 24-hour club. The staff were working in 8-hour shifts, so they had 3 different sets of staff that came in and worked in 8-hour shifts. They took care of their staff very well. You always had 2 meals included in your shift. So if you're working the early shift, you'll probably get breakfast and lunch. If you're working the middle shift, you'll probably get lunch and dinner. But they really looked after their staff well, and to me, it was enlightening to be exposed to new management styles and new marketing styles. That's why I enjoyed it, and I could use the information in my thesis. And they closed every first Monday, as I said, of the month. Full 24 hours, no stop. And the members knew it. The members didn't even complain because they knew this is the session where all the staff get together. Firstly, for a full-on workshop to identify problems, to discuss problems, to come up with solutions of problems, and obviously be better in their service to their customers. And that's why the customers didn't complain. I can remember one of the issues that we, for instance, problems that were identified, is that we were losing a lot of money to staff, to free drinks that we were giving out to staff. Because with every meal you have, the staff member is entitled to a free drink. Now, well, not unlimited, but I'm talking about a Coca-Cola or an orange juice, something like that. And the solution was quite simple. We just decided collectively, the people working in the restaurants, if staff members come up, we don't ask them if they want ice in their drink. We put 4 cubes of ice in their drink, and then we actually pour the drink to them and not give them the can. And within the first month, there was a reduction of 30% in what was given out free. And that's a old trick that's used in the restaurant business, where customers are not asked if they want ice in it. They are given ice, and then obviously you'll save on the drink that fills up the glass. But on the other hand, it's also the right for the customer to later on, when he gets his drink, to say, sorry, I don't want ice, or when they specifically order anything, to say no ice. Nothing you can do about that, because the percentage of people who do that is way in the minority. So it's not going to really impact on your strategy, and that is to save on your drinks. So those are just things that are an example of a specific problem that was addressed and it was resolved by the people who was experiencing that problem. It wasn't a management or the cleaning staff or the tennis coaches that came up with the solution. It were the people who worked in the bar, who was experiencing the problem, who saw the possible solutions to the problem, and therefore I quite enjoyed that management style. It was new to us, I think, in the late 80s. It's probably more common nowadays in most businesses. Good experience, and yeah, just an example again of where specific objectives were set when or once the problem has been identified. In other words, giving out too much, we're losing too much by giving it away to our staff. How do we address it? Well, we're going to try and cut down 20% in month one and eventually try and get it to a 50% saving, whatever. That's a specific objective that is that we want to achieve. And obviously, um, if you want to come up with a solution to a problem like that, it's very easy to measure your success at the end of the research, because you have set very specific objectives. Now, the example that we've used, and I think it's used in your textbook as well, about F&B, specific objectives that F&B could have for the research about accessibility to the social media platforms, is to identify which social media platforms, and it doesn't have to be one objective. It could be a number of objectives that you want to achieve with your research. In this case, they've set out three specific objectives, which would be, as I said, the first one, to determine which social media platforms their customers use, the F&B customers use. It tells you which one is important to them, it tells you which one they prefer to use, and it gives you an idea of which one you should be populating the most with information. Secondly, they want to determine whether the customers are also engaging with other organizations, in this case, other banks. Are they also going to the websites of other banks, and are they also active on the social media platforms of the competitors of F&B? And then finally, they also wanted to identify whether F&B customers are receptive to the marketing messages that is sent out. In other words, do they read it and leave it there, or do they actually reply to it? Because that's very important to get that information from your customers. If nobody tells you anything, then you don't know if they are satisfied with it or not. So you want to know that you want an interactiveness from your customers. You want them to respond to the message that you send out. You almost must give them a choice to either say yes or no in a reply. Well, they do that, but how many of you actually have received SMSs or do still receive SMSs on a daily basis from different service providers where they say to opt out, reply yes, and to continue, just leave it? How many of you actually do reply? I think very few of us actually don't. And as a result of that, they continue sending us information, and then later on you become irritated because you are sending information that you don't want, but then when given a choice to opt out, you don't. So it's important that that kind of interaction is offered to your customers as well, because it helps. It immediately updates the information to say, listen, we don't have 100,000 people visiting our Facebook page, because when we send out the information, 30% of them actually opted out, replied yes and wanted to opt out. So it's not the accurate number. So I think you get the idea of what, in this specific case, I set as very specific objectives by F&B. And if we go to the next step, then obviously is to develop a research plan. Right, so we've got the problem, we have identified what we want to achieve. How are we going to achieve it? there are different types of research designs. There are three specific research designs that is popularly used by researchers, and that is your um, exploratory, your casual, or your descriptive research. And if we go to the next slide, we can get into more detail, especially what your exploratory research is. That would give you information um, to gain a better understanding of what the research problem is. In other words, you're exploring. That's why it's an exploratory research process. Now, the different types of methods that can be used to explore more is firstly um, to use secondary data analysis. Now, that is information that is available already. You've collected over a number of years information about, but you have never used that information. It's out there, so it's not a new search that has to that has to start. It's just information that is available already that you now um, have to analyze. Then also you've got experience surveys. Now, experience surveys refer to specifically using people who are experts in a particular field. In the case of F&B, for instance, if you want to, if you want, or a method that can be used is to contact the CEO, which is obviously the person at the bank that has spearheaded this social media marketing campaign. And to be honest with you, FNB was the first bank in South Africa to really take social media seriously and use it effectively as a platform. So if any of the other banks want to do research, um, F&B and specifically the head of this particular campaign, the CEO, would be somebody that they would contact, not for information, but just to share experiences, what they've done, and that's what the experience surveys is for specifically. Um, Focus groups is a very popular way of finding or obtaining very valuable information because you would, for instance, have not send out SMSs or WhatsApps to customers to reply yes or no. You will get a selective group of customers, um, not using any specific criteria like age or gender or whatever. Just a group of them and ask them specific questions. For instance, it happens regularly when you visit the bank, and I'm not sure how effective this particular method is still because usually there's a bank employee that works while you are standing in a queue, maybe at the cashier or at the reception desk or the information desk. They ask you very specific questions, and they ask everybody the same questions. And it's not a debate. It's shorter answers. It's not just yes and no answers, but it is specifically designed to get a specific reaction. And the reaction that they want is the opinion of a customer. But it's, as I said, more than just a yes or no answer. Casual research um, is done um, to in cases where different variables are researched to almost sort of play the one against the other. Researchers here very often manipulate um, one of the variables so they can have a specific um, outcome. For instance, if there's a Facebook link on the F&B website, um, you want to know, is there an increased number of customers, F&B customers, that go onto the Facebook page because that Facebook link is there? And as I said, you can manipulate some of that information. A descriptive research is something where, for example, customers, you want to determine which customers use what type of social media platforms. Um, where do they access that? Um, how often do they engage in this particular social media platform? How do they interact with it? Do they just read it, or are they actually participating? Are they reacting to questions that's asked? In other words, descriptive research specifically are trying to get answers to the who, what, where, when, and how of a specific situation. Um, I think for the moment, because the topic of research itself is quite a daunting one to a lot of students. I think I'm going to give you the option to answer or to ask any questions, but I'm pretty sure that um, well, you might have many questions, but if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me now. I'm not going to go into more detail and go on to step number 3 in the market research process. Have any of you, Paige and Triska, Tanika, Jessica, Marlene, Nikita, everybody that's been tuned into the session, any questions that you might have at this stage? As I said, it's not rocket science. It's a very specific step-by-step process. It's a simple process to follow, and yeah. Uh, right. Any questions? Anybody?
No, sir. Thank you.
No questions at all. Are you ready for your next class? How many classes do you still have left for today? Or you're done for today?
Oh,
We still
so
have one more.
Oh,
we still have classes till after 4.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay. No. I'm better off than you then. I'm going to just quit while I'm ahead there. Thanks very much. I'll see you again for the 4th period tomorrow. We can continue this discussion on the market research process. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we chat again tomorrow. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye bye.